Welcome back to Webcertain TV. I'm Gemma Houghton. Today I'm joined by Pierre Loic Assayag, who is the CEO of Traackr, an influencer marketing tool, and that's the topic we're going to talk about today. So, hi Pierre Loic, thank you for being here.
Hi Gemma, thanks for having me.
So, influencer marketing is a really hot topic at the moment. Why should businesses all be thinking about doing it?
The businesses are in the process of fundamentally reinventing the way they're thinking about marketing and about their brand.
Yeah.
And influencer marketing is a piece of the puzzle. It's not the silver bullet, but it's an important part of the new marketing mix. Why do influencer marketing? The real question is, why stick with methods that have stopped working for quite some time now? So we're seeing a lot of divestment coming from the paid and ad world into content marketing, into influencer marketing, because brands need to find other outlets to reach their customers. And this is one of them.
And is it suitable for all sizes of business, all kinds of industries, or is it more suited to certain types?
So anytime that I tried to predict which vertical was going to work for influencer marketing, I found myself signing customers in a different one.
Of course.
So I'll stay away from predicting the future on this. What I would say is that we have customers, B2B, B2C, any industry from FMCG to beauty to B2B hardware. So I really can't find a pattern. The one pattern that I found is that it takes a company that is that has the right mindset to implement influencer marketing, and it's not as much buying a piece of technology, that's easy, but building a practice behind it.
Yeah.
So in terms of level of readiness, we find a chasm between companies that are fully embarked in their digital transformation. And again, influencer marketing is a piece of the puzzle, versus ones that are still trying to wrestle between the old world and the new world. So this is more a question of readiness, much more than the industry type.
Yeah. You mentioned before that it's not the silver bullet, it's not the tactic that's going to work, and it has to work in conjunction with others. So how do you kind of fit it into your overall strategy and, align it with your other activities?
Well, let me start by telling you how not to do it. And how not to do influencer marketing is sadly the way a lot of brands start with it, which is using influencer marketing as an afterthought into a campaign. You're producing a piece of content, you're launching a new product, you are sponsoring a conference, and at the 11th hour, you're trying to engage with your influencers. The analogy that I usually find for my clients is, imagine a world where all you have is a long series of first dates. And it's very painful. It's difficult for brands to engage with influencers that really don't know them and that start the conversation with an ask to the influencer. So it usually works fairly poorly. The inclusion of influencer marketing into the marketing mix is really to start with a relationship and understand where each influencer can best be leveraged by the business. In some cases, it will be someone who's really good at writing content and helping out on the thought leadership. Other times you'll find a great trainer. Other times you'll find someone who can help with your product roadmap. And the more a brand is open-minded and gives access to their influencers into the right segments of their company and of the marketing mix, the more successful they will be. So again, there isn't one playbook for influencer marketing. What I would say though is that the impact is felt as a lift of everything else, much more than something that you can carve out and say, I made X amount of dollars from influencer marketing.
Yeah. So it is very much, we know this, it's about building relationships, and it's about nurturing those individually for each person. You can't have a single strategy that you then employ with everybody you speak to, because it just won't work.
Yep.
And as more people we see now, more businesses are adopting this approach, are seeing its value. What are the biggest challenges in trying to make it successful for your business?
So the biggest challenge of all is to engage internally. Actually, I'd say maybe two things: one internal, one external. The biggest challenge internally is that for most businesses, the right people to engage with influencers don't work in the marketing department.
Yeah.
unless you sell to marketers, the last thing you should do is to send a marketer to talk to an influencer. A friend of mine runs marketing for a cloud security company, and he would tell me that he's the last person that his influencers want to talk to.
Yeah.
They want to talk to the chief security officer. They want to talk to engineers.
Yeah,
Same
the product
goes,
managers.
Same goes in gaming. Same goes in all these sectors. So a lot of success has to do with the matchmaking between your internal thought leaders and contacts and your influencers. And the more you get this right, the faster you will see results and the less you would be asked to pay for influencers as well.
So because they'll get more back from the relationship as well, I guess. Yeah.
So that's the internal challenge. It's the matchmaking. The external challenge has more to do with understanding the type of engagement and ask that you can have of influencers depending on the relationship that you've established with them. Again, to stay, not to beat down the metaphor of dating, but it's very keen.
Yeah.
First date to marriage is a long path, and you have to understand where you're at on that channel, on that funnel, to figure out what's the right ask to make and what is it that's to give. And very often, successful brands forget, because brands tend to love the sound of their own voice.
Yeah. And their products and services.
They forget what it's like to not work there, and will come in with an ask thinking that you should know about my brand because everybody does. And most people really don't care too much. Most influencers, if they're really real thought leaders in a space, what they care about is to serve their community. So when you engage with a level of ask that matches the relationship that you have, you can build up from there. But think of it as something that you need to play the long game to be successful.
Yeah, and that was something I wanted to mention, the fact that I guess it does require patience, because in this kind of busy world of marketing where everything's happening so fast and results are expected quickly, this is not something that you're going to be able to launch and say to your CEO,
sure.
It's worked, we've got all this business. It's a long game. It takes
time and it takes effort. So the last thing you want to do with influencer marketing is to try to automate that process, because again, it's relational, and you don't automate relationships.
No.
The minute you start thinking about automation, you're talking about a one-way street, and it just stops working at that point.
And absolutely as well, because there are more people adopting this approach, I guess, in every sector. Those influencers and those thought leaders are going to become more in demand. They're going to have more people to choose from in whom they engage with. So being even more aware of that and offering them something unique and different is going to be ever more important.
Absolutely.
And then obviously Traackr, and there are other tools as well that are available to kind of support and help with this kind of approach. Why is using a tool beneficial?
So let me start by saying that you don't have to. It's much more important for a brand to run their own game plan on influencer marketing and practice than it is to acquire technology. And it usually starts there. We find our best customers are the ones who are already practicing influencer marketing, usually on the back of a napkin, Excel spreadsheet, a Twitter list, name it. They have nuggets of data that they're storing somewhere. And tools become useful as you scale your program. So once you meet some level of anecdotal success, a campaign, a few relationships that you've been able to curate in a successful way, very quickly, you will find that your team ends up spending more time managing the data than managing the relationships.
Yeah.
And at that moment is when you need to think about technology, just like what you do for anything else, right? If your salespeople spend more time managing their Rolodex than selling, you have a problem.
Yeah.
So same goes with influencer marketing. You want to make sure that the human element, the skills, the craft are spent on the relationship building, not on data management. So a platform like ours allows our clients to manage a relationship with a set of influencers, update the data automatically, discover the right people to do the matchmaking with the people internally, report on analytics, and most importantly for the larger brands, the minute that you build this level of transparency on the data, you realize that someone that you're trying to reach out to, maybe somebody else in your company already had this relationship, so you don't have to start from scratch. Because again, you forget that you all represent the same brand. The fact that they work in a different department has absolutely no meaning to the influencer.
Yeah.
So at that point, the technology comes in. It doesn't have to be your first move. Your first move is to start, writing prose, and then you make it into poetry.
Absolutely. So don't think that getting a tool is going to make it easy for you and going to do the hard work. It's just purely there to facilitate the effort you're already putting in.
And I would make this statement for my fellow marketers about just anything in marketing. That the minute you think that you found something that is going to make your life easy, usually never is the case.
Yeah.
There's still hard work that needs to go into success, no matter how you spin it.
And what about on an international level? Because, of course, many brands now are operating internationally. They've got customers all over the world. Is with influencer marketing, how can you take that approach and scale it internationally, or is it not really something that is scalable?
So it's interesting. The thing that the international, so we have clients all over the world on all continents. We have offices all over the world as well. And what we observe is that the influencers and new technology challenges the borders that have been predefined. So, for example, I'm French, and you will find that a lot of French-speaking influencers happen to live in Canada, that for many companies a different jurisdiction than France, and yet it makes no difference to French people. They write in French, they're being influenced by a Canadian influencer. It's even more so the case with English, right? So between the UK and Ireland and the US and Canada, you'll find that, and a lot of international outlets as well, it's very, very fluid. So I'd say from that standpoint, it really challenges the way brands are thinking about relationships and programs. But at the end of the day, when you find an influencer that is meaningful to you, the relationship has to be local to that person. And it's really important. It makes a world of a difference when you're able to meet in person with an influencer at some point, rather than just keep that to a social network type relationship. So I think, the reach is global, the relationships are local, the execution of programs are local. And the one thing that brands don't do yet but are getting better at is to start looking at analytics and best practices in a global way as well. Because the bigger the picture, the more footprint you have, and you can compare your metrics and say, hey, we're doing really well in Australia, why is that? Let's find out. So, and then you can export best practice in a very easy way. So to put it simply, there's a need for large companies to think about governance for program at a global level, but execution has to happen locally.
Absolutely. Great. Well, thank you so much for talking to us.
Of
Really
course.
interesting to speak.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.